Hello, welcome back to Shattering Myths. One of the comments in the news segment there, before we turn to Yah's testimony, that I wanted to make a quick response to. There was evidently a survey that showed that 65% of Americans thereabouts thought that their taxes were fair, and that number was down 4 or 5% from the previous year. When we don't consider information in context, information has no value to us. There's a great example: information out of context. The reality is in America that 65% of Americans pay 2% of the total taxes. So if you were part of 65% that were paying 2%, why wouldn't you think your taxes were fair? There's a reason they think they're fair, because 65% of Americans are either not taxed or they're grossly undertaxed. It reminds me of the problem that was manifest yesterday all over the airways when the experts were universally trying to associate this bombing with right-wing extremists, and saying that the fact that it's Patriots Day in Boston, the fact that it's tax day in Boston, the crude nature of the bomb, the fact that it was symbolic and not designed for maximum carnage, all tells us that in likelihood it was a right-wing extremist. Out of context. Then they would say, it could be very similar to the Oklahoma City bombing. Out of context. What is the context of this kind of bombing? 99% of similar bombings have one common denominator. 99.9% of similar bombings, similar attacks, have a common denominator. Why not discuss it in context? And yet not a single person mentioned the fact that 99.9% of similar kinds of attacks, backpack bombs with ball bearings, put in a civilian area to wound people who obviously have nothing in common with the perpetrator's issue, that 99.9% of similar bombings are perpetrated by fundamentalist Muslims. What's the problem of providing context? You're afraid that people might understand, and if they understand, they might respond differently to patriotism and indoctrination and to politics and to military schemes? Is that the reason? Is it the same reason the United States won't release the 6,000-page investigation that it paid to conduct of the CIA's use of torture? I want to return to our review of Yahowah's focus on 7 and the Shabbat, because the Shabbat is one of those things, everything associated with 7, and the celebration of the Shabbat and the role that 7 plays is one of those things that provides context, it provides a perspective for which to understand Yahowah's instructions. God made this common denominator, our thread, weave through everything that he had to say, so that we could make connections, so that we would have a framework from which to understand our history, from the time we left the garden to the time the whole earth will return to the status of that we might understand how each 1,000-year era will play out, what the seminal events of each time will be, and how we might use this to understand that there is a very specific plan that is being followed. Yesterday we went through each of those eras, beginning at 3968 BCE when Adam and Yahowah were forced out of the Garden of Eden for having been beguiled by Satan, in exactly the same way that Satan uses Paul's writings to beguile so many today. twisting what God said, presenting himself as the credible authority who should be respected, not because of his own ideas, but because he plagiarizes and twists and distorts what God said to give him credibility that he does not otherwise deserve. And how we can go through 1,000-year increments that bring us to 2033 as the time that he will return. All based upon the perspective that 7 provides. Now, if you're a Roman Catholic, a Orthodox Christian, a Protestant, or evangelical Christian, attending Sunday worship services the first day of the week, on behest of a pastor or priest, believing that you are doing something good that is pleasing to God, sorry, but you would be dead wrong. Yahowah does not want to be worshipped, as worship has no place in a familiar relationship. And Sunday is the Lord's day. The Lord, according to Yahowah, is Satan himself. Remember also, Barak, God bowed down so that he could lift us up. That is the Shabbat. That is the meaning of it. That is God's promise to us. That's why Shabbat and 7. Shabbat in Hebrew are terms that work together. We make the connection between promise and 7. As the Hebrew words themselves convey both, that connection explains what God's promise is to us. Sunday is the Lord's day where Bel and Baal, Ra and Zeus, Jupiter and Saturn, Dionysus, Osiris, Tammuz, Bacchus are all worshipped. It's the day Mithras was worshipped, which is why Constantine, as the founder of Roman Catholicism, declared that everything that ought to have been done on the Shabbat is now transferred to the Lord's Day, to Sunday. It's when all wannabe gods, satanic impersonators want mankind to bow before them. Sunday worship is why Yah called Abraham out of Babylon. Should you be wondering why the Christian religion is uniformly wrong on this day and its purpose, Sunday versus the Shabbat, worship versus relationship, you will find the answer in Yahsh's prophetic revelation letters to the assemblies. God calls General Constantine's promotion of Paul's conception, better known as Roman Catholicism, or Universalism, the seat of Satan. He says that Catholics are Jezebelian, that they are exalting and married to Bel, Satan, the Lord. They are married to the whore of Babylon, which is another satanic reference. And then he says they are dead, poisoned by the devil's deceptions. And poison is a term that Yahowah uses throughout his Torah, prophets, and Psalms to speak of the effect of false prophets, the effect of those who claim to speak for him, who mislead. He calls Paul's, who he refers to by name as Shaul, he refers to his poisonous pen as being deadly. The Roman Catholic Church, misguided as they are by Paul, became so anti-Semitic and so anti-Scripture, no sun god worship, so pro-sun god worship, so pro-religion. They made it a crime punishable by death to observe the Shabbat, the seventh day, manipulating all the things required on that day so that they would be transferred to the Lord's Day on Sunday. It was interesting to hear the idiot that sponsors SRN News, the commercial from Laity Lodge, talk about how advice is only valuable if you listen to it and respond to it. And yet this deceived Christian has no interest in listening to the advice of Yahowah as he lays it out in his Torah. And so, like so many Christians, has no interest in the advice of God, which is what he was inferring, and yet he is completely opposed to it. While we're at it, the Roman Catholic Church also made it a capital offense to gather on any one of Yahowah's Moed Mikre. A capital offense means that if you do it, they will kill you. The called out assembly meetings of Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, 7 Sabbaths, trumpets, reconciliations, tabernacles were replaced with satanic substitutes like New Year's Day. It's based on the Roman god Janus, who is the replacement doorway. St. Valentine's Day, a misplaced devotion. St. Patrick's Day, inebriated by the wrong spirit. Lent, which was a derivative of the Babylonian religion, where Tammuz was killed by a wild boar, so the 40 days that he was tortured, there would be Lent in honor of Tammuz. There, of course, is Palm Sunday because they have to be palms. They were associated by the Egyptians with the gods, and it, of course, had to occur on a Sunday. And yet with Yahusha, when he came into Jerusalem 4 days before Passover, as the Passover lamb, it was actually Branch Monday. Not that the day of the week is meaningful. Maundy Thursday, of course, is the basis for the Eucharist and communion, as opposed to the celebration of Passover itself. Good Friday, which replaces the fulfillment of the Passover promise. They completely, of course, ignore the Shabbat, don't even have anything that they say occurred on that day. They go directly from Good Friday to Easter Sunday. If there is anything more blatant than that in terms of Christian animosity for the things that are important to God, than that, I don't know what it is. Of course, also on their calendar, in addition to Easter Sunday, named after the Babylonian goddess, you have the Assumption of Mary, which is also a lie. Halloween, which is the worship of all saints, a purely pagan festival incorporated into Roman Catholicism. And Christmas, the Saturnella, the day that pagans celebrated the birth of the Son of the Sun, became the second holiest day on the Christian calendar. All of it rubbish, all of it pagan, all of it in direct contradiction to Yahowah's advice, and all of it to keep Christians from actually celebrating the days that Yahowah has invited us to meet with him.
To have a fighting chance against cold and flu bugs, get the world's best garlic extract, Allison Plus C. Fight viruses, bacteria, and fungi with Allison Plus C. Scientifically proven in double-blind studies using low doses to greatly reduce the number, severity, and duration of common colds. Allison Plus C contains 300 milligrams of stabilized allicin, the active ingredient in crushed garlic. Studies show Allison Plus C is effective against MRSA, bacterial, fungal, and viral infections. 1 tablet of Allison Plus C has the equivalent of 40 cloves of garlic. Allison Plus C supports your body's resistance to all types of conditions and can help lower high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So boost your body's resistance to infection with nature's best garlic extract, Allison Plus C. To order, call 855-ALLISON. That's 855-255-4246. Or go to AllisonPlus.com. Spelled ALLICIN plus.com. Get Allison Plus C from Affinity Health Products.
On the average, Americans work between 45 to 50 years, hoping to build up enough wealth to retire and live out their golden years. Unfortunately, with taxation, the rising cost of food, energy, housing, and medical, many retirees are forced to live below the poverty line. Is this a flaw of free enterprise, or is our monetary unit we call the Federal Reserve Note forcing us into perpetual debt, ensuring inflation and higher taxes? These questions and more can be answered by reading G. Edward Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Congressman Ron Paul states it's what every American needs to know about central bank power. A gripping adventure into the secret world of international banking cartel. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. I will give a silver dollar from the early 1900s to anyone who purchases this book. Call 1-800-686-2237 and order a copy today. It's critical that the public be made aware of the system. Call and order your copy today at 1-800-686-2237. That's 1-800-686-2237.
We all know that Berkey water purification systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey water filtration systems. The Berkey Light systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light system today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
Hello?
Congratulations.
For what?
For losing all that weight. How'd you do it so fast?
ASAP.
ASAP what? What's that mean?
Are you ready to get as skinny as possible, as soon as possible, as simple as possible, and as sexy as possible?
I'm listening.
Then get with the ASAP program. It's real and it works. No smooth talk, no slick advertising, and no exaggerated claims of success.
I've got to know more.
Welcome to ASAP, as slim as possible. Whether you have 10, 20, or 50 pounds to lose, ASAP is your weight loss answer. ASAP targets the abnormal fat reserves and makes them available to be burned as fuel and contains no caffeine or hormones. Order ASAP at wholesale prices or join the team to share the business with others. Visit GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. Lose weight and look great with ASAP, as slim as possible.
Welcome back to Shattering Myths. It is amazing if you go to like the Catholic Encyclopedia or a pro-Catholic site, and they know that they have no justification for changing Yah's schedule, the one he etched in stone regarding his Shabbat, to Sunday. And so when asked what credible justification do they have, almost universally the answer from Roman Catholics is, well, the Protestant churches followed our example. If it wasn't a good idea, why did they follow us? And indeed, Orthodox Protestant and evangelical congregations use the same terminology, celebrate the same days as were perpetrated by the sun god worshipping Constantine. Still with Easter Sunday, still with Sunday worship services, still completely ignoring Yahweh's Shabbat, still treating God's 7 called-out assemblies as if they were evil days associated with those evil Jews, and presented in that evil Old Testament, particularly in the arcane and old-fashioned Torah. That's their mindset. And yet, everything that they're doing is Babylonian. The bottom line is that Christians are lost because their Sunday religion is based upon sun god worship. As such, Christians remain in Babylon. They have not heeded Yahweh's call to come out of her. They have not embraced the first step that we must accept if we wish to participate in the covenant. The covenant has 5 provisions. It has 5 terms and conditions. The first of them is to walk out of Babylon, and yet what Christians have done is to walk right back in to its pagan mythology. To understand the truth, to know the Word, to be part of Yahweh's family, one must first walk away from the darkness, the deceit, the destruction, the death, and damnation of religion, from the schemes that were promoted throughout the millennia by the whore of Babylon. The light, the truth, the life, the way are all made manifest by the Word, and the Word of God is comprised of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. The 7th day, the Shabbat, the day to desist from our ordinary work to contemplate Yahweh's work, is the first of many lights God placed on the path to paradise, path to his home. Sunday is a day that reflects Satan's false light, and we must acknowledge that Hasatan as a spiritual malach, as a messenger and envoy, is still brilliantly illuminated. If you were to see him as Paul did on the road to Damascus, you would see him as flashing light. That is how he will appear. And so the order of the illumes, the false light that Paul heard speak to him on the road to Damascus, all one and the same, Hasatan. He is the one who, with Paul, created the broad avenue which leads to death for some and to the abyss for those who carry the adversary's torch. In Babylon, there were 4 evil days each month. They were the 7th, they were the 14th, they were the 21st, and they were the 28th. Perhaps you noticed a pattern. Satan and his religious minions, particularly Paul, routinely condemn that which Yahowah commends. Sunday, the first day of the week, wasn't called Sunday for nothing. Before we move on, here's a snapshot of the 2 previous passages. Almighty God blessed and adored his association with the 7th day, and he set it apart because indeed he observed the Shabbat. On account of all of the heavenly work and the spiritual message, which by way of the relationship the Almighty had conceived and created, and then he had acted upon, engaging in his own message. These are the records of the birth and the genealogy of the spiritual realm and the material realm. When they were created in the day, Yahowah, God Almighty, acted upon and engaged in both the material world and spiritual realm. These from the 2nd chapter of Bereshit, 1 through 4. You may think that one day is as good as another. You may believe that God isn't troubled by the details and doesn't mind men exchanging his plan for one of their own. Then why do you suppose he told us his plan? Why do you suppose he said that I am extraordinarily focused upon my plan? Why did he say that this day is set apart? If he doesn't care, if he doesn't mind, if one day is good as another, then he lied. And why would you trust a lying God? Doesn't that sound a bit irrational to you?
Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. That bears repeating. Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. And Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse is the key to digestive health. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic, strong enough to cleanse, gentle enough to use every day. Pro EM1 is dairy, wheat, and soy free, contains all natural and certified organic ingredients, contains no preservatives or animal products, supports a healthy digestive and immune system, supports weight loss, improves absorption of food nutrients, aids in controlling yeast infections, is never freeze-dried, and uses 3 groups of live, viable, beneficial microbes to cleanse and remove toxins. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Teraganix.com, spelled Teraganix.com, Teraganix.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Pro EM1, the raw probiotic.
Is this the year you finally get serious about your family's drinking water? If so, keep listening for a special offer from Big Berkey Water Filters. Did you know that over 60% of municipal water is fluoridated? Berkey Water Filters distinguish themselves from many other filtration systems with the capability to significantly reduce dangerous chlorine, fluoride, arsenic, and disinfection byproducts from municipal water via the Black Berkey and PF line of filters. Then there's affordability. At only 1.7 cents per gallon, Berkey Water Filters purify treated and untreated water, even stagnant pond water. Stop and think how much money you could save by simply reducing purchasing, buying bottled water, and using water filtered by your Berkey water filter. No need to be constantly replacing expensive filters with a Berkey. A single set of filters can last for 5 to 10 years. Choose the best size Berkey for your needs at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. And right now, all GCM listeners get 5% off all ceramic filter systems. Just call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-BERKEY. Or visit BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. Free shipping on every order over $50. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
Why should you be in Arizona this month? One reason. Prepperfest AZ. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, April 26th through 28th. Get free training and hands-on experience from leading preparedness experts. Everything you need to be prepared. Plus longevity information. And guest speaker Dr. Joel Wallach speaks on Sunday. Don't miss Prepperfest AZ. April 26th through 28th in Scottsdale, Arizona. For schedule and flyer worth $2 off, go to PrepperFestAZ.com. That's PrepperFestAZ.com.
We the people grow cotton, wheat fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Hi, Ted Anderson. I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Virtually anyone could be tracking you right now through your cell phone. The fact is, anyone can track your calls, your texts, emails, your every movement, but only if they can detect a signal.
That's the new warning from the American Civil Liberties Union. It's just released the results of an investigation that found law enforcement agencies across the country track personal cell phones on a regular basis as a form of surveillance.
That's why you need Block-It Pocket. Block-It Pocket is a standard or custom-designed cloth pocket infused with pure silver that creates a complete Faraday enclosure for any mobile device. With Block-It Pocket, all incoming and outgoing signals are blocked, including harmful radiation, and your device cannot be hacked or tracked by anyone. Handmade in the USA, Block-It Pocket costs less than $30 and ships free to the lower 48. Call 888-315-9618 or click Block-It Pocket, spelled BLOCKITPOCKET.com. Block-It Pocket, enhancing health and privacy.
What do you do when your government is engaged in unconstitutional acts? And what should you do when our elected officials fail to uphold their oath to protect we the people from foreign and domestic enemies? Hello, fellow patriots. I'm Pastor Broden of the Constitutional Defenders of Texas, and we have discovered a constitutional answer to these questions. The answer is found in the First Amendment to the Constitution. The fifth platform in the First Amendment is the answer to our government operating in an unconstitutional way. The right to peaceably assemble and petition redress for grievances. Redress means to set right, to amend. It is a remedy for a wrong or an ill perpetrated against we the people. Sign our petition for redress at c.x.com. That's CDOTX.com. Redress equals solution.
Shattering Myths. I'm chuckling here because Scott and I were talking during the break. I asked him to check on something for me to find out if Nichols, McVeigh, and Ramsey Youssef were still alive or if they had been executed. And the answer is McVeigh has been executed, but that Ramsey Youssef and Nichols are both sharing the same cell block in a maximum security prison. It's an underground prison. It's called ADX Florence in Florence, Colorado. And that there was a while apparently that McVeigh and Ramsey Youssef were in the same cell, and that even today they are Nichols and Youssef are in the same cell block. The report is that Ramsey Youssef tried to convert McVeigh to Islam, and that 7 years ago that Ramsey Youssef himself converted to Christianity. Who knows what is true. I can tell you that Christianity is no better than Islam, and it is interesting that these two men who could tell us so much about the malfeasance of our own government are locked away in solitary confinement, hundreds of feet underground. Now, as we were talking in the last segment, Christians are almost universally irrational. They believe that one day is as good as another, that we should worship God every day, when God, in fact, says the antithesis of both points, that one day isn't as good as another. The Shabbat is the day that he said that he set apart. It is the day that he himself celebrates. So God said exactly the opposite of that, and he also says that he does not want to be worshipped. He wants us to engage in a family-oriented relationship with him serving as Father, not Lord. And, of course, Christians, because of Pauline doctrine and their antagonism towards the Torah, which they view as a set of rules, say that God doesn't fret to the details, that he really doesn't care about any of that sort of thing, because, after all, the detailed account in the Torah has been abrogated, it has been annulled, it has been destroyed by Paul, and now all that matters is that you believe. And so you can wipe away every bit of God's advice if you're a irrational Christian. You may consider Sunday as a substitute, and you say, well, it's really unimportant because God knows the intent and purpose of my heart. You may justify Sunday by reasoning that since so many religious folks observe it, it can't be contrary to God. But to do so, you either have to be ignorant or irrational, because or you are intending to worship a God who isn't God. Because the God who proved that he is God through the prophecies presented in his Torah, prophets, and Psalms said that those things are an abomination to him, that he does not want to be worshipped, that the Lord, Satan, it's his goal to be worshipped, and that he says that his day is the Shabbat. If you don't understand and don't embrace everything associated with the Shabbat, then you don't know the real God. And if you're worshiping a God, it's a wannabe God. And the only spirit who wants to be God, who is not God, is Satan. Perhaps that's the object of your affection. Unaware of the redemptive significance of the special Shabbat, and the fact that there are Shabbat associations with unleavened bread, as well as with Yah's celebration of the ultimate Shabbat, Sukkah, you may think that Sunday worship is justified because of a supposed resurrection. And yet, Yahowah told you, prophetically, 500 to 1,500 years before it occurred, that there would be no bodily resurrection. He told you that the body of the sacrificial lamb would be incinerated that night. He told you what was going to happen on Passover, on unleavened bread, and on first fruits. He provided an eyewitness account 700 years in advance, 1,000 years in advance, depending on whether you're reading the 22nd Psalm, the 88th Psalm, written 1,100 years in advance, or you're reading Yeshayahu, written over 700 years in advance, but yet an eyewitness account of precisely what would happen on Passover, unleavened bread, and first fruits in year 4000 Yah, 33 CE. And yet, as a Christian, you think, nothing important with the Shabbat. I'm going to celebrate and worship God on Sundays because there was a resurrection. You're not even going to read the text that you place your faith in, the so-called Christian New Testament. When if that was the seminal proof that the man that was killed was God, which is a rational impossibility, that man can kill God, Why is it then that the only common thread between the three accounts of what happened on first fruits is that no one recognized him? If the idea was to prove that he came back from the dead, that he was raised bodily, then why isn't that the most recognizable figure in their lives wasn't recognizable by anyone? Why, if he was God and God was killed, did he say, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why have you left me? Why have you separated yourself from me before his body died? If the Shabbat is the day that God set apart and that he himself observes the Shabbat, and it is the day where he does his work, and if Matzah is the most important day of the year, according to God, why is it that Christians ignore its significance entirely? Unaware what the Greek manuscripts composed by the eyewitnesses actually reveal, or that Yahowah's testimony reinforces the validity of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, you may errantly believe that the disciples themselves replaced the Shabbat with Sunday. There's no indication of that. Christians will say, but they gathered together on the first day of the week. There's only one time when they said that somebody was setting out for a journey, and before they set out for the journey, they met on the first day of the week. Didn't say that they worshipped. Doesn't say that that is the day they celebrated. And to the direct opposite, they say that Yosha routinely observed the Shabbat, always observed the Shabbat, as did his disciples. Christianity will ignore the evidence, will contradict the evidence, will be irrational in face of the evidence, because the faith is torn asunder by Yosha and by Yahowah. Indoctrinated by religion and confused by Pauline doctrine, you may actually think that there is an institution that God established called the Church, which is a name based upon Shirsh, the daughter of Helios, a pagan goddess, and that this human institution has been given the authority to establish doctrine, even change God's instructions as they see fit, even though God's Torah instructions say don't take anything away from this, don't add anything to it. You may be so lost as to suppose that there is no rhyme nor reason to the Torah, that there is no more, but that is no more rational than the religions that have been spawned by the likes of Paul or by Muhammad. For you, the notion that it contains, that the Torah contains a mathematical equation that defines God's purpose, the pace and of his plan, how human history will unfold, when he was here, when he will return, what days that we meet with him, how we can walk from our troubled world to his home. All of that is conveyed by the Shabbat, the promise of 7, where man, in addition to God, is God's promise of perfection. All of that is lost when people don't listen to God. If you're one of those people that don't care about the details, to say, I'm going to believe something that is irrational, that is impossible, that is easily refuted, that has no chance whatsoever of being true, then Hosea, which means salvation, 4:6 was written for you. God said, my people, speaking in first person, that, by the way, is a distinction between Yahowah in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, where he speaks to us in first person, and the so-called Christian New Testament, comprised mostly of Paul's rhetoric, where it is Paul that speaks, never once quoting God in first person. My people, God said, are completely destroyed, and they will perish. They will be cut off and cease to exist. This was in the Niffle Perfect, telling us that the people have actually participated in their own and absolute demise because of a lack of understanding, Bele. Because of corrupted information, inadequate knowledge, and deficient discernment. Because indeed you have totally avoided and rejected Ma'as, you have spurned and despised, you have literally refused and disdained. This is in the Call Perfect, revealing that the avoidance was complete and that the rejection here is literal. Knowledge and understanding, diat, information and discernment. So then, I will consistently reject and avoid you, Ma'as. Those who Ma'as God, who spurn and despise, refuse and disdain, the knowledge which leads to understanding that He has provided, are treated in kind. It is ultimately fair. God says, speaking in first person, of those who do not like, who do not consider, who do not observe His Torah instructions, then I will consistently reject you and avoid you, Ma'as. I will actually disassociate from you, and I will rebuff you. We'll be back to the conclusion of Shattering Myths in a moment.
Nice shooting. Hey, that's a sweet AK-47 chest rig. Is that multicam?
Yep, got it from StrikeHardGear.com.
Strike what?
StrikeHardGear.com.
Set your sights on StrikeHardGear.com. Tough, tactical gear for your Soviet-style weapon that's made in the USA. Affordable, plus a no-questions-asked 30-day money-back guarantee and lifetime replacement warranty. StrikeHardGear.com. Go ahead. Pull the trigger.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it led back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Hi, Teddy Anderson. I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Being prepared against possible food shortages and economic collapse is not complicated. Just remember two words: disaster stuff. Add .com after those two words and you've got just one site for all your preparedness needs. DisasterStuff.com prepares your family against food shortages with Linden Farms freeze-dried foods in buckets or Gourmet Reserves freeze-dried food in numbered 10 cans, both with free shipping. Purify and rid your water of contaminants with a Big Berkey or other Berkey system and get free shipping, plus a water level spigot or fluoride filter at cost. And protect your radios and other electronics from EMPs with our EMP Faraday bags, starting at just $5.90. When the food shortages and economic instability happens, be ready with all your stuff from DisasterStuff.com. Just remember two words: DisasterStuff.com. Freedom through self-reliance and personal responsibility.
The coming financial collapse is real. The subsequent social unrest will happen. Even if you made it out of suburbia alive, where would you take your family? Act now to secure your survival retreat in the American Redoubt with the experts at survivalretreatconsulting.com. The American Redoubt is the designated safe haven for all liberty-minded patriots relocating to Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. Get eyes, ears, and boots on the ground. Get professional, confidential, discreet advice. Get survivalretreatconsulting.com. Call 208-627-2855. Save time, money, and stress while you secure your ultimate survival retreat property now, before it's too late. Water, energy, food, defense. survivalretreatconsulting.com. survivalretreatconsulting.com.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, listen carefully. Sweeping changes to IRS policies will help more people than ever eliminate their tax debts once and for all. And now, thanks to Dan Pillow, you can get the tax help you need to end your tax nightmare.
Hi, I'm Dan Pillow. I've helped thousands of people reduce or eliminate tax debts they couldn't pay. And after more than 30 years of experience dealing with the IRS, I can tell you there's no such thing as a hopeless tax case.
With the IRS's new policies, it's easier than ever to put your tax debt behind you once and for all. Call now at 800-346-6829 to learn how I can help you. You know your IRS debt will not go away by itself, but you don't have to live in fear anymore. Call 800-346-6829. Learn how I can help you eliminate wage and bank levies, release tax liens, and negotiate a settlement with the IRS that will put your tax nightmare behind you forever. Call 800-34-NO-TAX or go to my website, taxhelponline.com. That's taxhelponline.com.
Do you suffer from low-functioning adrenal or thyroid glands? Did you know that mercury from your dental fillings comes off your teeth both as a vapor and as metal particles into your body? Wherever mercury deposits in your body, it stops cells from functioning normally. Animal studies show that mercury causes kidney function to drop by 60%. Mercury deposited into your adrenals or thyroid will cause a corresponding drop in function. The number one method by which your body detoxifies itself of mercury is glutathione. The number one superfood that helps turn on all 75 trillion cells of your body to produce glutathione is non-denatured whey protein from grass-fed cows. After investigating most high-end whey proteins on the market, only one is the most non-denatured, the most active, the most complete, and in our opinion, the most powerful in what nature originally put into the fresh, raw whey. It is One World Whey. Call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworld.com.
The final segment of Shattering Myths for today. If you are a religious individual, if you are a person who does not observe the Torah, to observe, by the way, does not mean to keep, it does not mean to obey. It means to use your eyes to examine and use your mind to consider. If you do not observe the Torah, reading it, studying it, thinking about it, this statement is for you. It is from God. He is speaking to you in first person. He is telling you what is going to happen to you based upon your current animosity for his Torah. So don't say you weren't warned. My people, God created all people. My people are completely destroyed and they will perish. They are cut off and will cease to exist. He didn't say that they're going to be eternally tormented in hell. He said quite the opposite. They're going to be destroyed. They will perish. They will cease to exist. The vast majority of souls, particularly those victimized by religion, cease to exist at their end of their mortal lives. This was written in the Niphal Perfect, which means to say you have no one to blame but yourself. You brought this on yourself. My people are just completely destroyed and they will perish because of a lack of understanding. Did he say a lack of faith? No. In fact, there's probably no word more further removed from faith and belief than belly. It means that they are destroyed. Their souls will cease to exist because they lack understanding, because they have processed corrupted information. Read Paul's letters. They have inadequate knowledge because they have not considered the antidote for religion, which is the Torah. They have deficient discernment because even when told the truth, they don't process it. Indeed, because you have totally avoided and rejected, you have spurned and despised, refused and disdained, and that is the attitude that Christians and Muslims have, even socialist secular humanists have, for Yah's Torah, for his source of answers, for his source of teaching, for his instructions, because you have totally avoided and rejected, spurned and despised, refused and disdained knowledge and understanding, information which leads to discernment. So then, as a consequence, I will reject and avoid you. I will actually disassociate from you and will rebuff you. Call him perfect. Literally, genuinely, actually, and on an ongoing basis. For those who say, God knows the content of of my heart, don't sweat the details, it'll all work out in the end, God is saying, no. You chose to disdain my instructions. You didn't bother to understand what I was offering. And so I'm here to tell you that as a result, I will avoid all association with you. Since you have continually ignored, you have consistently overlooked, and have forgotten, you have lost sight of the significance of and responded improperly to. This was written in the call imperfect consecutive, which tells us that this is something that is actual, not hypothetical. Imperfect, it is on an ongoing basis, and consecutive, it was your choice. Because you have chosen to ignore continually and consistently, literally and actually, the Torah of your God, the instruction and teaching of your God, God's source of guidance and direction. I also will consistently ignore your children. This is the consequence of religion, my friends. Those who have spurned Yah's Torah, which would be virtually 100% of socialist secular humanists, America's national religion and the national religion of the West, would include all Muslims and all Christians. Those who have spurned and despised the Torah, they will be eternally distanced from God. At the end of their mortal lives, God has said that you will be destroyed, you will perish, you will cease to exist. That is the consequence for choosing deliberately to ignore God's instructions. But because you have ignored the Torah, the same thing will happen with your children. They also will be ignored by God. Not because of God's doing, because of your doing. You have misled them in your religion. You have taken them away from God. So as a consequence of ignoring His instructions, His Torah, your children too will suffer your fate, something that you have done to them. I'm Yahowah. This is Shattering Myths. Back again tomorrow.